Brave blocks Windows recall from screenshotting your browsing activity. Recall, I think, is a terrible idea. Taking snapshots of your computer every few seconds and then storing that somewhere is a privacy nightmare. VPN's top download charts as age verification law kicks in the UK. So on the UK App Store, if I go to top free apps, the #1 app in the UK at the moment is Proton VPN. And that's a fantastic choice because that's my recommended VPN and the one that I use. If I click open here, you can see that I am currently connected to the Netherlands, even though I'm not in the Netherlands. I'll talk more about Proton VPN later and why I recommend it. But notice there are other VPN providers here. Number 2, we've got ChatGPT, and then 3, NordVPN. 3rd most popular app. 4th, VPN Super Unlimited. 5, Free VPN, etc., etc. Now, as you scroll down, number 10, a VPN product as well. Various VPN products are listed here, including browsers that have built-in VPNs, Surfshark at 25, etc. But I'm glad to see that Proton is the #1 downloaded VPN because that is the VPN that I suggest that you use if you're in the UK, but basically anywhere. Notice what's happening across the world. Governments are trying to restrict access to social media websites and others. Here's just an update from Australia. YouTube to be included in Australia's teen social media ban. They are telling us that they are stopping teenagers from accessing various websites. But now what's happening is Reddit, X, Blue Sky, Wikipedia, Discord. Other websites have been caught in this. I'm not sure how Australia is going to implement this ban, but in the UK, they expect you to either do a scan of your face or upload your ID document or upload your driver's license as an example or your passport. Just at the very time that we had this massive leak with an application like T-App leak worsens with second database exposing user chats. On Friday, an anonymous user posted confidential information on the internet that included driver's licenses and selfies uploaded by members to verify they are women, as well as photos and images shared in comments. Their DMs were leaked. Private information about them. T verifies that you're a woman, with access only granted after providing a selfie and government ID verification. The UK government seems to think that this is a good idea, that you upload really confidential information about yourself to third-party authorization services. Now, on certain websites, that isn't necessarily a UK company. It could be a third-party US company. So your personal data is now being stored by another country that perhaps doesn't have the same privacy laws as the country you're in. Do you really want your personal data stored around the world and stored on many, many sites? Now, there are various ways that your age can be verified, including credit card checks, photo ID matching, and estimating the age with a selfie. It's hilarious that they do all of this and then you can just bypass it all with a VPN. And I'm going to talk more about VPNs later in the video, but I just want to emphasize the point that governments are now pushing towards this verification of who you are. In Australia, in the UK, looks like Norway's looking at this. The US has got this, for instance, in Florida, etc. Different parts of the world are implementing different methods, but it seems that 1984 is looking like a handbook for governments rather than a warning of what they shouldn't be doing. Now, Proton VPN is my recommended VPN. I will talk about them in more detail later, but I'm glad to see that many people in the UK are downloading Proton VPN rather than some other dodgy VPN service. If in doubt, download Proton, download Brave, and use Brave as your browser and Proton as your VPN. We'll now get into the technical details, but if nothing else, look at using Brave as your browser and Proton as your VPN. Now, I'm sure I'll get a lot of hate about those recommendations. You always do when you recommend these type of things, but that's what I use. I use Proton, I use Brave. I've been using them for a long time based on the recommendations of people in the cybersecurity space as well as people in the privacy space. I'm going to give you a lot of reasons in this video why you should use them and how to configure Brave to make sure that you're not tracked easily.
Secure from the pests, obeying contradictory thoughts. Unification of thoughts is more powerful weapon than any fleet or army on earth. We are one people with one will, one resolve cause. Our enemies shall fall, and we will perish. We shall prevail.
Now, before we get started, how good is the web browser that you're currently using? One of the best things I think you can do is go to the EFF website, so the Electronic Frontier Foundation, which is a leading nonprofit defending digital privacy, free speech, and innovation. Done that for a long time. Under their tools section, if you go to cover your tracks, they have a section here where you can test how good your browser is. So I'll stop the animation here. They have this option where you can test your browser for tracking and fingerprinting. You can use a real tracking company if you want to, or you can uncheck that option. I'll simply test my Brave browser using the tracking option. Now, please note, I'm not using a VPN in this example. I'm simply using Brave. I'm on a Starlink router in this case. Notice we told that in my tests, I have strong protection against web tracking. What does your browser do? Is my browser blocking tracking ads? Yes. Is my browser blocking invisible trackers? Yes. Am I protected from fingerprinting? Yes, my browser has a randomized fingerprint. So a huge amount of information here provided about what device I'm using and other information about my browser. You can go through this detail and see how good your browser is. Now, the browser that I use day to day is Brave for many reasons. Here's one example. Almost 490,000 trackers and ads have been blocked since I installed Brave. I've saved almost 8 gigabytes of bandwidth, saved about 7 hours of time because ads, as an example, are being blocked. But notice Brave has just got a little bit better. Bleeping Computer posted this article on the 23rd of July. Brave blocks Windows recall from screenshotting your browsing activity. Recall, I think, is a terrible idea. Taking snapshots of your computer every few seconds and then storing that somewhere is a privacy nightmare. I also think that it's not great from a cybersecurity point of view, because if that information gets hacked, a hacker gets access to all kinds of confidential information about you.
Windows recall feature is found. Do you want to proceed with the extractions given the GUID that it's found? Yes, I'll type in yes. And with that, it has determined all of the captured windows. It has seen all of the images that I've seen present and include a little bit of a summary here. So we could actually open that up in Notepad if we wanted to, or see the full extraction folder path. You know what? That's probably worthwhile to do. Let me open that up in Explorer. Here we are in everything here. This gets the whole image store with everything added with a .jpeg file extension, so it's a little bit easier to parse. And then the total recall.txt explains everything that it saw with window titles, the timestamps, etc., etc. And you can see even, again, the command prompt just from running strings when I was doing that earlier. Rick Astley latest single, all right. Music festival, yep. I'll admit I don't have a ton of good data to show you this in the spooky sense, but I hope your imagination can run wild on literally just, hey, me Googling Total Recall and everything that I've done in the past couple of moments already being extracted, accessible, and within Recall.
So Brave Software says its privacy-focused browser will block Microsoft's recall from capturing screenshots of Brave windows by default to protect users' privacy. There is a lot of criticism about Microsoft recall. I think it's an awful idea. This is just another good reason to ditch Windows and start using Linux.
Was it Windows? Oh, Mac OS? Oh, don't worry, I can save you. Install Linux.
So this article is from Bleeping Computer, but on the Brave website, we're told that Brave blocks Microsoft recall by default. Microsoft recall was first announced in May 2024, and it got a huge amount of pushback from people in the cybersecurity space as well as the privacy space. Absolute nightmare, taking full screen screenshots every few seconds and storing them in a plain text database, which left it open for exploitation by anyone, including malware. So Microsoft rolled this back, but has now brought it back again. When you use Brave, Microsoft Recall is disabled by default. You can enable it if you really want to, but if you're privacy focused, you probably don't even want to use Windows. And if you have to, then fortunately Brave will block Microsoft Recall by default. Now, this video is titled Best Browser. I think, in my opinion, Brave is one of the best browsers out there, if not the best browser, just for general use. I'm sure I'll get a lot of comments telling me that I'm wrong, but let me show you some information from the EFF talking about good browsers to use. They will often recommend that you use Tor. Tor, however, does have some restrictions. As an example, a lot of websites will block Tor. As an example, it's a lot slower than a traditional browser. But notice here, using a fingerprint-resistant browser. This is from the EFF Cover Your Tracks website. Some newer browsers were built to thwart fingerprinting, such as the Tor browser and Brave. So you'll notice that in this document, they will use randomized information to stop tracking. One of the worst browsers you can use is Chrome, as an example. So don't use Chrome. Have a look at Brave. Don't take my word for it. Have a look at the EFF website. Now, another good place to go is privacyguides.org. Another nonprofit. They talk about recommended browsers. So just like the EFF, they recommend Tor in many cases, but notice other browsers that they recommend are here, including Brave. They talk about the good and bad about browsers. And on the left-hand side here, they talk about, for instance, desktop browsers versus mobile browsers. So on a phone, as an example, their recommended browser is Brave, which includes a built-in content blocker and privacy features, many of which are enabled by default. Brave is also built upon Chromium, so it should feel familiar and have minimal website compatibility issues. If you're used to Chrome, you'll find Brave is really good. Let me just give you a very simple example of how bad Chrome is. Let's go to this website and look at this ad-infested mess. You've got an advert playing on the bottom right here. You've got adverts sort of everywhere on this website. Terrible website. How you can even use Chrome in situations like this, I don't know. Notice the difference with Brave. So with Brave, I'll go to exactly the same website and notice I don't see ads. But notice no ads, that versus this absolute disaster. So it's got a built-in content blocker. It's going to block a lot of trash, and it has privacy features built in. They do talk about the recommended Brave configuration and what you should do if you're on Android or iOS. So as an example here, notice I've got my shields up. You are going to want to enable shields on various websites and then decide which options you want to enable for both Android and iOS. But Brave is their recommended choice on a mobile phone. If we scroll down, there are other browsers listed here. For the desktop browsers, they recommend Molvad browser, which is based on Tor. And then further down here, they'll mention Firefox, but gives you warnings about Firefox. And then they also mention Brave, but also gives you a warning about Brave. Now, what's your recommended browser? Do you use Tor? Tor is great, but has some other restrictions. For just daily use, I would use Brave. So once you've installed Brave and you start it up for the first time, you can set it as your default browser, or you can skip that option. I'm going to set it as my default browser. Now, because this is a Mac, I'm going to say use Brave as the default browser. Then you can choose your theme, match the system or light mode or dark mode. I prefer dark mode, so I'm going to set that and click next. I don't want to help participating in stuff, so I'm going to say maybe later. I am definitely not going to send diagnostic information to the developers, and I'm not going to share private and anonymous product insights. I'm going to click finish. So this is kind of what it looks like when it starts up. A bunch of stuff on the edge here that I don't like, including crypto stuff. So I'm going to click on customize to remove a bunch of options. First thing is I don't want to show background images. You can decide to do that and then decide which background image you want to show. I'm going to remove that, and I definitely don't want to show sponsored images. So I'm going to remove that option as well. Under Brave stats at the top here, you can see at the moment no trackers and ads have been blocked, but I'm going to remove those statistics. Top sites, I'm going to remove that as well. Brave news, I don't want, so I'm not going to turn that on. I'm not going to show the clock. I don't want to show all these cards, so I'm going to click hide for talk. I'm going to click Brave rewards. I'm going to hide that. I'm going to hide the VPN. because I will personally use Proton VPN, not Brave VPN. And search, you can decide which search you want to use. So you've got this option, show search widget on the new tab page. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to turn that off. So I have a very basic option here. I'm going to click on use and say no thanks. Very, very basic. So if I open up a new tab, looks like that. I don't want bookmarks, so I'm not going to show the bookmarks bar. I'm going to hide that as well. I don't like this thing, so hide the Brave Rewards icon. So right click on that to hide it. Various options can be shown here, including the AI. I'm going to hide that. I'm going to hide the VPN option. The wallet I'm going to hide. Sidebar you could keep if you wanted to. It's up to you. And search you could keep or remove. The moral of the story is you can customize this as you like. I like to have a very basic setting. So if I search for something here like my name, notice by default that it's using the Brave search engine. I definitely don't want to send information to them, so I'm going to say no thanks. Now, this is better than using Google. You can decide, however, if you want to use Brave or if you want to use DuckDuckGo or Google as an example. So I'm going to click on the hamburger and then I'm going to go to settings and then I'm going to search for search engine. You can set the search engine for your normal window and private window. So I'm going to change that. Decide what you want to use. Do you want to use Google? The problem is Google is doing a lot of tracking. So you may decide to use Brave or you may decide to use DuckDuckGo as an example. But I'm going to set start page because I want to use Google results, but keep it anonymous. I'll do the same for the private window, set it to start page. So now if I open up a new tab and I search for my name as an example, notice we are on start page. Start page is doing the searching here. So I get the power of Google results, but I am anonymous. Our privacy is being eroded and quite frankly, taken away from us in a crazy way by governments. Examples are the UK as well as Australia. Notice Australia age verification is coming to search engines with huge implications for privacy and inclusion. Crazy stuff happening with search engines like Google. So I'm not happy. I just think it's mad the amount of erosion of privacy that's taking place by governments these days. So you can decide which search engine you want to use, and you might decide to use a VPN. Proton VPN, because of the UK age verification law, has seen a 1,400% spike in signups. Huge increase in signups because of this change in the UK, where Ofcom is set to begin enforcing the Online Safety Act, requiring adult sites to verify the age of their users. So huge increase in people using VPNs. Now, I don't necessarily agree with all the politics about all of this, but personally, I just don't like the fact that our privacy is being eroded. The UK is pushing what I think crazy ideas like this, where they want to limit children to 2 hours of screen time a day. Now, I believe that children shouldn't spend lots and lots of time on their computers, but I don't like the fact that the government is now going to try and control what we are doing. Just think about the privacy implications of you having to upload your ID or your passport to various sites or your likeness to various sites. And think about the data breaches that are taking place all the time. Have I been pwned? Tells us that almost 15 billion accounts have been pwned. Data breaches are happening almost every day. Do I trust giving my ID or my passport or driver's license information to some company just so that I could use Reddit as an example or use Discord? I don't think so. I don't like this idea. Let me know your thoughts about this, but I think you probably want to use a VPN in today's world. And before I talk about my favorite VPN, which is Proton, really want to thank them for sponsoring this video. Let's look at some more settings within Brave. I'm going to do a search for diagnostic information. I definitely don't want to send diagnostic reports to the developers. And I don't want to automatically send daily usage pings to Brave either. I want privacy. I don't want people to know what I'm doing. So I want to lock all of that down and shut those options down. So now if I open up a new tab, notice it's very, very basic. Under Get Started, you have various options here, like on Startup, open a new tab page or continue where you left off or open a specific page or set of pages. I like that in some cases. I want to open specific pages every time I open up a browser on a specific user account, as an example. Under appearance, lots of options here. You can decide on your theme, dark or light mode. I have turned off bookmarks, but you can decide to change that. You could hide the bookmarks button. I don't want to show the Brave News button. Various other buttons I've turned off. You can turn off the sidebar button as an example, VPN button, etc. Now, when you start typing stuff in the address bar, like notice here, I'm going to start typing. It's giving me information already. You could decide to turn off the AI. I don't like AIs at all from a privacy point of view. So I want to disable that. We might want to disable quick commands, bookmarks, etc., and only get suggestions as follows. So you can play around with those options and see what works for you. You can decide how you want to use your tabs. Now I'm going to show you a bunch of options now with regards to privacy and security. It's a little bit boring and tedious, but it's well worth setting some of these options. If you don't want to go through the hassle, simply use Brave with the defaults and a VPN. It's better than using Chrome without a VPN as an example. But these enhance your privacy and security. Now there's some recommended privacy settings in Brave. These are outlined on the privacyguides.org website. We are told that Brave includes a built-in content blocker and privacy features, many of which are enabled by default. If we have a look at some of those, we're told that Brave provides advanced privacy, so privacy by default. It uses Brave Shields, which blocks trackers, cross-site cookie tracking, fingerprinting, and more. It also has advanced protections, and you can read about their policies and practices on their website. But let's have a look at things that we need to change. So recommended Brave configuration. Back on the hamburger, I'm going to go to settings. We're told that under Shields, Brave includes some anti-fingerprinting measures. We suggest that you set the following globally. So we're going to set aggressive under trackers and ad blocking. So on the left-hand side, Shields, we want to set this to aggressive. Select strict under upgrade connections to HTTPS. So let's do that as strict. You can optionally block scripts. You need to be careful with this because it might break some websites. You may want to enable that, but be careful that it may break some websites. So if it does, then you can turn it off. We want to block fingerprinting. That is done by default. We want to select block third-party cookies. That is the default. Check forget me when I close a site. We are told here that if you wish to stay logged in to a particular site you visit often, you can set exceptions on a per-site basis by clicking on the shield icon in the address bar and unchecking this under advanced settings. Again, the shield option is here, and then you can go to here and change your options. But they would recommend forget me when I close the site. From a privacy point of view, we don't want that information stored, so you may want to remove your cookies and then uncheck all social media components. Allow Facebook logins and embedded posts, disable that. Allow X embedded tweets, turn that off. Allow LinkedIn embedded posts, turn that off. Now under privacy and security, we have some options that we can select as well. So they tell us select don't allow sites to use the V8 optimizer under security, manage V8 security. And we're told that this reduces your attack surface by disabling some parts of JavaScript JIT. So that's found under security, manage V8 security, don't allow sites to use the V8 optimizer. Now you need to decide for yourself. There's always a balance between security versus ease of use. Here we're setting a bunch of options, a bit of hassle to do it, but well worth it if you don't want to be tracked. Now we're told select automatically remove permissions from unused sites. Now one thing that's nice about this is you can simply copy these values and then just search for them rather than trying to find them through all the permissions. So we're told that that's under site and shield settings, and it's highlighted here, automatically remove permissions from unused sites. That's enabled. Disable non-proxied UDP. So I'm going to simply search for that because it's easier to search that way. So under web RTC IP handling, disable non-proxied UDP. Uncheck use Google services for push messaging. So I'll search for that as well and make sure that that's disabled. Auto redirect AMP pages. So I'll search for that. And there it is. Just below it, auto redirect tracking URLs. That's enabled as well. And prevent sites from fingerprinting me based on language preferences. That's checked as well. Okay, so now if you want to use Tor within Brave, they give you some options for that. So you can select those options and then they give you other options as well. The moral of the story is Brave by default is so much better than Chrome, but you can make it better by enabling these various options. Just be aware that if you enable too many options, it might break some of the websites that you visit. So you may have to, for instance, reduce or drop your shields on certain websites. So as an example, depending on which website you go to, you might want to disable the shields or reduce some of the options here so that the website works. So cybersecurity is a hassle, but do you want to be tracked? Probably not. If you're not sure what to do, just use the defaults and use a VPN. Lots of options here. I think that's enough. Let me just show you one trick that I really like in Brave. If you go to certain websites, they might throw up a bunch of pop-ups. Notice the shields here are showing that a lot of shields have been raised. If you have problems with a website, you can disable your shields. So if the website is not showing properly, then disable your shields. Another great feature in Brave is that you can run Tor from within Brave. So go to File, New Private Window with Tor. This uses Tor rather than going across the normal internet, so your traffic is being relayed through multiple hubs. That makes things a lot slower. But notice I've connected to Tor now, and I could go to a website as an example and view that website through the Tor network, or go to YouTube as an example. You will find that some websites will block you if you use Tor. They won't allow you to connect. It'll also be very slow, and you may have to answer quite a few captchas, but this is a very safe way of accessing the internet. Now, if you really want to use Tor, rather download the Tor browser, but this gives you something if you just want to use Tor once in a while, rather than using a VPN or using the internet natively. This is another great option available within Brave. Now, one of the problems with just using your browser on your computer is that your IP address is exposed. I personally use and recommend ProtonVPN. That is my recommended VPN. On the Privacy Guide's website, they also talk about VPNs. Their top 3 private VPNs are Proton, and then they list others. Their top private email provider is Proton Mail, and then they mention others. I have been using ProtonVPN for a long time and started using Proton because of the recommendations of others in the privacy space as well as the cybersecurity space. This is a fantastic book if you're interested in privacy, extreme privacy, what it takes to disappear. Lots of great advice from Michael Bazzell in that book. On his website, inteltechniques.com/VPN. He recommends ProtonVPN for secure VPN access on desktop, mobile, and within a pfSense firewall. So this is his recommendation. But in his book, I actually got a digital copy of his book here, he makes a really good point, which I agree with. Recommending a VPN provider today is similar to claiming a preference for the best version of Linux. No matter what I say, I will offend someone. Please note that any reputable VPN provider is better than none at all. However, I do believe that some are better than others. I currently use and recommend ProtonVPN as my exclusive VPN provider, and almost all of my clients possess a ProtonVPN account. Now, you can buy his book, excellent book, that gives you a lot of information. Here on his website, he gives you some reasons to go with ProtonVPN. Now, there are many reasons, as an example, that they're based in Switzerland. They're not exposed to many government invasions, available to 5 eyes, 9 eyes, and 14 eyes countries. US court orders are ignored. But one I want to highlight is you can pay in cash. You can also pay in Bitcoin. So if you want to get a ProtonVPN account and you don't want to pay using PayPal or a credit card, etc., just send them cash. So there are some restrictions. You can send the cash to the following address. You do need to register for a free account, and then you need to send them the cash so that they can upgrade your account. They also do something similar with Bitcoin, but that's great. So not only are Proton highly recommended by many, many people, they have various options such as Proton Mail. Highly recommend that you use Proton Mail if you want a private email solution instead of using Gmail. Proton VPN, fantastic. We've got other options such as a password manager available from Proton. They also have storage, docs, etc. They are sponsoring this video, but I would recommend them even if they weren't sponsoring this video. Don't take my word for it. Have a look at Michael Bazzell. Have a look at various websites such as the EFF, as well as privacyguides.org, and see their recommendations. Do your own research and decide for yourself. But personally, what I use every day to go online, Brave and Proton VPN. But let me know your thoughts. Just as Michael Bazzell said, you recommend someone, you're going to get a lot of hate. Which browser would you recommend? Which VPN would you recommend? Put those in the comments below. But hopefully I've helped you think about this and given you some resources. Go and have a look at the EFF website. Have a look at their surveillance self-defense page as an example. So learn how to be safer online and not get tracked. They have tools guides, a whole bunch of other options there. Fantastic information. One of my favorite books, Extreme Privacy. I'd recommend that you have a look at this book. Links below if you're interested in buying it from Amazon as an example, or just go to Intel Techniques and you can get an online PDF of the book. But again, let me know your thoughts. I'm sure I'll get a lot of hate from certain people. You're always going to get that when you recommend these kind of things, but interested in your thoughts.